Hello and welcome to the Low-Code Campfire. This is episode number 251 for Friday, July 10, 2026. In today's main topic, we have an unpronounceable percent pix and m. We'll get into that in a minute. I am Dale Warner, head of support for Plant and App, and we welcome you to the Low-Code Campfire. This is an event that we do most Fridays, 10 a.m. Central Time, where we get together with our community, where we share techniques and challenges, experiences. Just want to emphasize all skill levels welcome to this meeting. So bring something to show or bring a question to ask. We record all of them and put them on YouTube. You can get to that through youtube.com/plantandapp. So 250 episodes, all there ready for you to watch, not in a single setting. We do this same agenda week by week where we stop and say hello because we're a friendly group, and then we go around the campfire. We always do first call and anything you've submitted in advance. We'll hit some things that maybe I've prepared for, and then these contributions to our campfire website. I know there's at least one or two there. We'll look at our going on in our community website, and yeah, after an hour or so, we always stop, turn off the recording, and spend a few more minutes enjoying each other's company off the record. So do engage with us, jump in, show and tell, use the chat window if you like, but do engage. You can submit questions and topics in advance at support@plantandapp.com. If you do that, I'll take a look and do a little bit of research, put it on the agenda so we can talk about it here. With that, hello one and all. Hello one.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, good morning.
Did you happen to come with something on your mind to talk about?
I don't have an immediate need, and once again, I'll just say that means system is working very well. I'm happy to hear that and see that always. But
Yeah, good. All
yep.
right. Well, so let's dive in. I had one that I wanted to cover today that this percent and pixels and M. Um, we are about to release cumulative hotfix for July 14, 2026. If everything goes on schedule, that will uh, go out on July 14th, Tuesday. And that includes a new version of our listings. And in our listings, there's been a long-standing issue with data table views. They were not respecting the configured column widths. And the column widths in the legacy view, Bootstrap 3 implementation, you could type in that you wanted a column to take up a particular percent or number of pixels or EM. And I had to research what an EM unit was today. Uh, it's something relative to the font size, so that's kind of an interesting one. We'll cover all that in a minute, but the idea is the Bootstrap 3 version had this capability. The data table, which is based on Bootstrap 5, didn't. And so when you fiddled with those parameters, it didn't do much of anything, and you might have had to try and style it by way of CSS. So since we're about to remove Bootstrap 3 from our product in the next version, version 2.0. We want to make sure that everything Bootstrap 5 gives you all the tools you need to work. Okay, that's a long introduction. So we've made this thing work again.
Oh,
So
good.
let's take a look at what that looks like, and then um, we can talk about impacts of that. So this is a listing that just has some usernames, excuse me, the usernames on the system. So user ID, first name, last name, display name, just a simple data listing. If we look at that, um, our demo listing, it looks like this. So we have just a SQL data source select from users. And then we have like user ID. And the things that I'm talking about are down here, the column width and the width coordinate. So if you adjust those, right now, this is unadjusted. This is just a core listing, and notice the columns are kind of spaced out evenly. It's just normal HTML table display. And so it does some spacing. If we decide that we want to impose some spacing, for example, we could say that we want the first name to take up 50% of the width. We can add it here as 50% on the first name column. Save that. And so now when we refresh with this update, half the screen is now taken up by first name. So this gives you a great deal of control on how your listing displays and maybe add some consistency. Without this, it ends up um, uh, the columns shift around based on the data that's in the table. So if you're scrolling through the table and you've got some short column information, then they might space very evenly. If you continue scrolling down and you find a very long um, piece of information, maybe a large text with an unlimited width that might take up the whole screen or push it off to the side. So you don't, without it, you get some variability. With it, you can control exactly a lot of content. Mark, you've been using our product for a long time. Is this something that you have configured into your listings?
Um, Sometimes having a column that I want to determine its width. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and if you've used
Oh,
it
yes,
on our,
definitely have. I have experienced some frustration in the past. I have a little bit of a custom fix. I'm looking it up to see how it compares to what you're doing.
okay. So let's go over the settings and then so there's percentage, there's pixels, and so we can assign, for example, this column to be 250 pixels wide, and that'll kind of nail it down. So the first name column now is 250 pixels. Um, if I we can see it change. So if I decide that I wanted 100 columns or 100 pixels wide, then we see it even smaller still. So it gives you a lot of control over how that displays. So we've covered percentage and pixels, and then EM, I looked it up, and this is a relative unit based on the font size. And I think how that roughly translates is that you can think about this as characters wide. So if we think the first name column is going to cover about 20 uh, characters, we can use the EM notation, and it'll leave enough room for 20 characters. But this also scales. So if we make uh, no, if we start changing the magnification factor or have other display factors, that it's still going to leave 20 characters in width. And so to me, that sounds like if you kind of understand what your listing is all about, that might be a nice, easy way uh, it, to assign space and get control over your columns. But any of those will work. So now going into the the reason that I bring this up today is that um, since Data Table has been out for many versions, since version 1.18, and it has essentially been ignoring these settings. I mean, the settings do appear in your listing, but they don't give you very much control over the actual column widths. And now that we fixed that, it raises the possibility that you might have used it and gotten frustrated with it, left some settings behind, found some other way to style it, or just lived with it the way that it was. When you install this new version, those settings are now, if any legacy settings that you have left behind, I don't want to use that legacy, but any settings that where you've um, provided a column width and a width coordinate, those are going to now start being um, well, we're paying attention to them as we should have all along, and so your listings could shift after you install this cumulative hotfix. So we wanted to just alert you to that and tell you that it's coming, and then tell you how to find it. Other than places to go look might be um, useful. So that leads us to the next thing. How do I find these that where those things might be hiding and that I need to pay attention to? So that brings us into a new campfire contribution. We look in the contribution list at campfire.plantapp.com. There is a new one called Listing Column Width Definitions. And there is an explanation of all that I just covered, and as well as a very informal video. But there's some SQL that shows you any place where those where you've used um, column widths. So that if the column width is greater than 0, then it shows up. And so these are then identifying listings and fields where column widths are present and potential places where you might want to look. So um, you, ideally, you would want to just look at your listings as a whole after you update this. But if you need hints about where specifically to look, and uh, if these parameters aren't set, they're just going to continue to float as they have. If they are set, they're going to start obeying them, and so we want to give you the idea. This listing on the right shows what this SQL returns. So, for example, um, on a uh, on a page that has a name of Mark Buelsing, so this is a contribution that you made, Mark,
Hmm.
that in a particular pane on this Campfire portal, the page ID 69, that you specified a 350 pixel column for name. And so it turns out I took a look at that particular page, and that's a Bootstrap 3 listing. So these settings are shared. They're not specific to data table. They could be Bootstrap 3 as well. So when that listing, for example, gets upgraded to Bootstrap 3, it's going to start paying attention to that setting. And so it, where it previously wasn't. So, questions? Did I leave anything out that gives you the why?
I'm excited to see this is going to be working. I do need that and want that at times. Not all the time, but when you want it, you want it. And so it's it's really nice that it's going to be working now. I did have some CSS that would make it better the way it was, but I also thought um, this should work. The settings are
Yeah.
right there. It seemed like why am I doing extra CSS? But so I'm glad that it's working, and I'm also glad that you've given us a tool to find them because I do have quite a few of these grids, so that's going to make finding them a lot better.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can adapt MySQL to if maybe you just want to name the grids instead of get it down to the field level, that kind of thing, but at least giving you the tools to find the stuff. Um, well, I was hoping that that would be useful.
It is
The fact that I mean, I think the unfortunate thing is that we let it go for so long, and that CSS workarounds are present. And my concern is going to be then that as these column things start to work, that the CSS that you've developed might be overriding, or I mean, it might one or the other might override, and you might start seeing um, uh,
strangeness.
strangeness, stuff that needs to be adjusted. And so And I know we installed um, our cumulative hotfix process is that when we build the this cumulative hotfix for July 14, we actually build it the week before and test it on internal systems. We installed it on one and saw a listing shift a little bit. Of course, it's not it it's a cosmetic thing. The columns were all still there. It just wasn't what we had previously set out. So we wanted to, we realized that we had a problem that needed to be addressed. So providing it this way. Okay,
Mhm. Yeah, thanks for doing that.
sure. Um, since I've wandered on here to see other contributions, I think I covered this last week. Yes, I did. This is um, being able to have radio boxes that have formatting that doesn't make them, this is unstyled and this is styled. So that's here, and I need to come back and put some words with this, but at least it's an example of how to do that. So those are the two recent things that have been added.
That's something I will definitely be using that.
Nice. All right. So that's that. I've the thought I was just going to show you the sequel here and paste it into the meeting, but I thought it better as a contribution, so we're not going to use that. Let's see what else we have. And I know there hasn't been any updates to the documentation. Um, the community forum, we can take a look and see what's going on with that. Um, so one of the questions that showed up here was um, somebody who was trying to uh, put a background color on a cell, and he was adding a class. So assuming that you might have added this didn't really specify, but it looks to me like he had maybe added a CCCC field class that showed up this way, and he was trying to style it. He was getting the font size was working, the background color wasn't, front color wasn't, and so trying to figure out what was wrong. And turns out that, and he later confirmed that what I put here was accurate. That the CSS there's a count depending on um, how you do CSS, it finds a matching element, but other styles were winning. So that's part of the fun with CSS is to figure out uh, how to how to closely target the thing that you're after and how to identify that. I find that I do a lot of work in the using the inspect column to look at things and interactively styling them, which then lets me uh, copy and paste whatever style, whatever class. And if you define a class, then you can interactively get it to work and then finally copy and paste that into your CSS. So, but this was the answer, needing to more closely tag it. So
Okay.
that was
I'm
that.
glad you found a solution for that.
Yes, and then we had a
You know,
question.
Dale, just
Yeah.
if you don't mind for just a second on that issue of CSS on a page,
Yep.
I just wanted to share briefly that I recently built a form that will help me test CSS on a page. It just lets me type or paste some CSS in a large text box, and then I hit a button and it injects it into the page so that I can see it in action. I can see the CSS influence on the page pretty quick and easy. And then if I like it, then I can make it a part of the page. But if I don't, then I keep tweaking until it does. So I know you can do that in the inspect window, But this allows a lot more carryover and a much larger box to type in, and it's just very convenient. So it's just another action form.
Nice. Um, so when you do that, do you reload the page or just push it right into
Yeah,
uh,
the button that I built reloads the page.
okay. So it just reloads the page and has it on there. So that, yeah, nice, quick and easy. I like it.
Hmm.
And then since you've done it that way, it's more of a copy and paste. Uh,
Hmm.
yep,
Hmm. It's just a fun little thing. I do a lot of those tools that help me get further in life.
absolutely. That's part of the challenge, figuring out when it's time to build a tool to do something
Hmm.
versus when it's time to just plow through. So
Hmm.
I do find, and well, even going back to these community, the campfire contributions, the idea that collecting these, I mean, obviously each one of those is some kind of a tool or a technique, something that you can reuse. And yeah, I certainly find that having things that you can use is worth the effort.
So likewise, I have a similar form that'll help me test JavaScript the same way. You paste it in a large text box and refresh. Also very nice.
Um, Along those lines, there was a conversation maybe a week or two ago on our new Forms product. Um, and also, yeah, and I can show a couple of, I can wander off into Forms for a minute, but there was a question on um, Forms 2.0 about the fact that Java, our settings here doesn't have any on init to the, or rather the JavaScript, being able to inject JavaScript into the page.
Oh,
So that was the question, and I brought it to our team, and the answer was that we have some JavaScript actions. So execute JavaScript and continue. And my understanding is that these since we have an action for it, why designate a specific place in the code to put it? A separate configurable place. Action form grew up uh, um, need by need, and we designated a spot for it. Now I think it's just going to be within the action, and so you'll have the control to do it. That's the answer I got. I haven't tested that out yet. That's the I don't know if you were part of that conversation, Mark, but that'll be the way that that gets addressed in the new Forms product. Um,
that's nice. It a person can compartmentalize their JavaScript that way too, by having multiple actions with multiple purposes.
um, and now that I did that and close it all down, I want to add it back again. So we'll do this here on the page load, add an action, JavaScript. There was also, I don't know whether this one, uh, nope, this hasn't been fixed yet, but um, we spent some time talking about the idea that we needed to do those things and more on a full screen window. And
Great.
the product team agrees that these some of these can be improved to use the full screen. And then as soon as we looked at it and saw this, that we obviously have some um, cleanup to do so that this control bar, well, this pop-up window should be on top of everything until we close it down. So that looks like a Z order problem to me, very easy to fix, but we agree with that discussion that we held a couple of weeks ago.
Good. Yeah, I was there for that, and I'm happy to see that. I'm very happy, actually.
since we're, whoops, this is here again. Now I've done it. I've activated the tool for drawing. Had to get that into another corner. Okay, here we go. I have two things on. Let's see. I'm going to clean this. No, I'm going to start a new page. Do I'm going to do something else. All right. Um, I've reported a I'll get it out here in a second. I don't want to disturb this page because I used it in reporting a problem, so I'm not going to break this one, but I will show another one. So let's create a new page. We'll go to this one and Campfire. I create so many pages I have to remember to do the structure, or else I'll just be sorry later on when there's 1,000 pages and no structure. Um, So this is all about, I wanted to point out about migration. I don't think I've showed this one off yet, or if I have, I haven't spent a lot of time on it. So the idea is that if you have an action form, um, after the Forms 2.0 comes out, we're going to migrate that. And so I wanted to kind of start showing what the migration might look like. We're still it might change a little bit from where you see it now, but um, what I've done is gone on a regular um, action form, used the contact form, created a page that has some required fields. So we have last name, first name, email, whatever, and a button that does something. And so the idea is that you have your form and your whatever it does, and you're going to want to convert that into the new Forms 2.0. What does that look like? So to do that, I'm going to rename this. We'll have a it's called contact form, but you'll have a new button that's called migration plan. And so this is going to be non-destructive. It's not going to change this action form. It's going to build a plan and show you what it's going to do. It's a little bit, well, it's a lot of information actually, but it'll show you how it's migrating and then it'll create a new form for you. So let's just see if it works here, and then we'll kind of slow down and do it again. So we do migration plan, and it gives you a lot of information parameter by parameter. Again, we'll spend some time on this in a moment, but we click Start Migration. This gives us a new Plantain app, Forms 2.0. And so now we see we have the first name, last name, phone, subject, message, and a button, which looks a little bit ugly. So that'll be something we'll take a look at. And so it's a text box that has that's brought forward all the same kind of parameters. And if we go to validation, it's got the required field validator. So it should do all the same thing. All you have to do is hit save. And then when we go back and look at the page, we now have the old form. It didn't get rid of it or do anything to it, but we now have the new form in Forms 2.0. So it's going to help you migrate. It's not going to be perfect. You can see already that there's a layout difference one to the other. And so after it migrates, you're still going to want to review it and test it and make sure it does the things that you want it to do. So these are showing up required, so that's good. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of the high level overview of migration. So any questions before I move on from that?
I'm glad to see that demo. It just made me wonder if in that intermediate screen, have you noticed an opportunity to influence any of those aspects that it was looking at, or influence what it's going to do about it, a particular item?
No, and I'm going to slow down and we'll go over exactly what was that. Well, we'll go over some of what's there. So I'm going to do this again. I'm going to go in and delete this other form off. So we'll delete it and repeat the process and slow down and see what it looks like. And that's gone. So now we go into manage the action form. So we have the original and we'll do the migration plan and take a look at it. Behind the scenes, there's every item that's on the screen, every field, every button, every action within the button. All that is really stored I mean, it's a bunch of data, and a lot of it is JSON. And so, what we're seeing here is every form setting is displayed, and it's telling you what it's doing with it. So, we're seeing that the module title, and I forgot if I answered your question. The answer is no. It doesn't, there isn't an opportunity to change anything. There's an opportunity to see what it's doing and make so that you can think about things that you might want to fix after the fact. And we should probably make a way to copy this so that or you can just copy it. But so we see essentially three things. This yellow says I've done something with it. It's been transformed a little bit. Um, Other things are migrated, so those are good. And then all these red things are things that don't have an equivalent in the new form builder, at least not yet. So lots of things will not migrate. And so you'll know exactly what that looks like. So for example, then the module title got transformed. It was contact form, and the setting is called module title. Now the new one is going to be called contact form copy. So it's just saying that the new thing is going to get a different title, which is good. Um, the how the form opens used to be set to always, and now it's going to inline. So a change was made. So you can follow along with what it's doing. These green ones are just a one-to-one, the root classes. Um, if there weren't any root classes, but if there were any, they're going to migrate. The name of the pop-up is going to stay the same, things like that. So we start with form settings, and then there are the form events, which in this particular form, it didn't have any events, but you can see there's what it's migrating. We should put some in there just to see what it does. And then here we start with the fields. So the first field, and it gives you the number, and it's a text field. So was transferred. It used to be called open text in our new setting. It's called text box. We've tried to clean up some of these names to make them make more sense. But lots of things migrate. So the first name and the compacted title, all these things go. Whether or not is enabled, it's instead of being true, it's now called enabled. So lots of these things, I would expect these yellow ones to mostly work. They just were transformed from one thing to another. And then you see all the things that don't go. So um, are the column offset, the health sex, the CSS styles. I know that we're not going to have CSS styles uh, in the new Forms 2.0. We're really pushing you towards classes, which is a better design pattern. So neither of the styles go, and then uh, the the CSS class, uh, the the uh, the CSS class gets migrated if there was one, but the separate label CSS class is not getting migrated. We're only going to have one CSS class per field because from CSS allows you to target the elements below it. So it's really redundant to have both. We're cleaning this up and doing it the way that would make the most sense. But if you were if you had label CSS class in use, it would not be migrated, and that'd be the kind of thing that you'd be looking for. I had a value here, and it's in a red box, so perhaps that's something you should be paying attention to after the migration. Maybe we can see what one of those looks like. So in our UI settings, we have, I'm going to call this LCSS and L style and control CSS CSS, and we did have a max width 240. So if we look at that again for first names, we look at the migration plan and first name. We can see the CSS class is being migrated. It's just being, it's now called a root CSS class. Interesting. These don't show the values that are being skipped. I'm going to bring that up to our team because I think that would be useful to see that you had something and it's in the red box. These are not giving you a big clue about what's been skipped.
Dale, I can imagine that I would want to see this migration plan for some time after the migration happened, as I'm working on the form and trying to make sure it's all working the way I would need it to. Like some way of export and hang on to this list would be very much appreciated. I'd probably drop it into a static text box and hide it so that it would be part of my form. Could always see it. Just a thought. This looks like information that I would want to refer to several times.
So first I wanted to see what it would look like if I just manually copied and pasted it. And so we get a migration. And then to your idea, if we use a content block and dropped it at the bottom of the field. And
Is that a static text box now?
yes.
Content block. Okay.
Interesting. So let's see what this looks like if we save it.
So the data's there, the
color.
formatting isn't.
Yep. And that might just be a impact of the copy paste, but I think that's an interesting idea. So the migration plan, we can give you an export button. Your idea of add as a content block.
Yeah. Keep it with the form one way or the other.
And maybe we would set it as hidden or content
Can you
block.
do that with a content block?
Well, it's got a visible, so we could make it be not visible.
Visible on load. Like that visible on note, I think I do.
So um, we would call it visible on load, not visible. So
Okay.
was that the default you think you would prefer during a migration?
For this content, yes. Yes.
Okay. And then yeah, we made the note that skipped items should still show the value.
What does that mean?
I'll go back. Yeah, I gotta um, we'll make this visible again and take a look at it. These things, wait a second. I don't know where it went.
It looked like the form was really tall. The scroll bar was long. Wonder if it's there, but a different color, something like that.
So, yes, it is very tall. Don't know what's going on with that. Let's try it. So we did get contact form copy. That's good. And we have our content block, and it has a lot of content here. Visible on load, visible. There's this new setting, remove from layout when not visible.
Oh, yeah, we talked
So
about hoping that would be there. Tell me.
yes, so we got the tall. Um, let's go back with this and remove from layout when not visible. So it was doing exactly what we asked it to do, right? When I made it to be not visible, and but didn't check the box, we got that very tall thing. So it should
So it
be
was still there, but we couldn't see it. But it
right.
took up room. Okay. Which is our standard, which is our normal occurrence now.
Yeah. So I'm going to all for this request make it that we'll also check. So it'll be not visible and remove from layout when not visible, so that it
Okay.
doesn't blow up your form. But we'll go back to seeing visible here. See if we can get that to go. All right. So now on to the question. Uh,
Yeah,
I
like label CSS. Okay.
yeah. See, this was skipped, and I would have preferred that it showed. I mean, when something is transformed or migrated, we're seeing the value. The fact that we have skipped, but we're not seeing the value, you don't. I suspect we're just not showing the value even though it's there and on skipped items. And we really should show the value, which then would draw your attention to the fact that you had something in the form that's not going to be in the forms 2.0.
Yeah, it would be nice to have the value there. Actually, it would be rather critical to have the value there.
Yeah.
Or we just hang on to the old form and we go look it up, but
Well,
it would make sense to put it in the list.
yeah, I think the argument for, so here is, let's see, this is, I messed it up. So let's try again. I'm trying to do it from the original so we get the coloring again. So we have the migration plan and field. So this is first name and label CSS. So I'll double check here in a minute to make sure this is present, but if it showed a value here and it's in red, that's something that's pointing you directly to something that you had and are definitely losing. When it's red and blank, it's not impacting you. So it's telling you, yeah, we had this thing, it skipped, but it wasn't impacting you. I'm almost wondering if we should suppress lines that this is a lot of extra information, right? So
Hmm.
tell you don't have a custom validator. So I think we should have a rule. If the skipped item has no value or default value, don't show the line in the migration plan. That would make this lots shorter, and you're paying attention to the things that matter. Anyway, I'm going to go back and just double check. So I think we were dealing with first name UI settings, and I had them. So I would have hoped to see this information in my migration plan, knowing that these things are not happening, right?
Yes,
Used
it
to
would
have a
be nice to
yeah,
have that. It
used to
would
have a max
be,
width and it's going away. So the
yeah,
red,
it would be more than nice. It's pretty important to have that,
right?
one way or
Otherwise,
the other.
yeah. Otherwise, you're having to hunt for the differences, uh, and you don't
Hmm.
not really giving you a good clue. So if we get rid of the noise of things that are skipped that you don't care about, and the skipped things are only the things that you had values, then the form should work. That should draw your attention to the things that need to be fixed or considered. So,
Okay, and I know that you're going through this exploration of this migration plan. I When you're finished, I'd like to understand the exclusion of the field CSS and the
yeah,
consolidation of the classes. I'd like to understand that better.
okay. So I think we're almost done with this. We have the buttons are being transformed. I think, let's see. Yeah, the buttons have an on click so you can see your actions got migrated, things like that. So item by item, it's gone. So yeah, so let's do that. Let's go over um, the CSS one in particular.
I think the label styles and the control styles get a lot of use. I use them quite a bit. So this is going to be a significant change.
Okay. The so there's I think we got two things going on. One is that we're dropping styles on for both, and the other is that we're dropping the label CSS. So let's handle those separately. The um, the styles pattern encourages a uh, it encourages you to put formatting things directly on a particular control versus thinking about them as big picture site wide. Um, you can do the same thing through a CSS class um, and potentially make it global. You can still style it down to the individual field if you want. So just as a general pattern, um, CSS gets you there, and um, but it does move to the style sheet. It's encouraging you not to not to style at the individual element level. So it's a, it's a big scope preference. And before I move on from that, I'll entertain your thoughts.
Is that making the assumption that if you make a style, then it's reusable and use it in multiple fields and maybe multiple forms? Is that the idea?
If you do it as a CSS class.
Yeah, but interestingly, that's not the way I use this. If I put something in a style, I really only want it to impact this field. And it's quick and easy, and I don't have to make a class and find a place to put it and then manage it. Right here, if you put it right here, it's associated with the field. And when I'm working on it, even a year later, I'm going, okay, what's the styling on this? I can go here and see it easily and quickly. If it's being moved to a class, then I'll have to come here or figure out what the class has been used. I guess it's going to be here. And then I have to go find my class. And there's going to be a lot more of them because of this change. So it's going to be a tall stack of classes, and I'll have to find the right one. So for me, this looks like a lot more work. And I'm not sure the benefit, except that a concept of reusability that I don't want to take advantage of here. I just want to style this thing.
Okay.
So it seems like a little bit of enforced consolidation when I don't feel that I want or need to do that. You could argue, hey, this is good programming practice. You should do it, and I get that, but it could be my choice to do that. I could use all classes if I chose to do that, but now I'm kind of being forced to do that. It's making more work, unless you tell me I'm not looking at it right.
Um, I I think all of what you just said is valid. And as a support guy, I can um, promise you that I will bring that feedback back to the development team to make sure that we are listening to our customers. So, but because up until now, the decision has been uh, that basically what you said, the CSS classes uh, is a preferred technique that we're pushing you towards, and the impacts that you describe are the way I understand it as well. So,
I do think a lot about my use of time and effort, and this change equivalates to more work, and that's not a welcome thought ever.
mhm.
So that's not necessarily an overriding factor to your decisions, so Mark has to work harder, tough on Mark. But on the other hand, I also think of this product as being very important to me and everybody else. And I don't want I would like to contribute thoughts of, hey, let's keep this simple to use when I can.
Yeah, I'm not arguing for or against you. I am just letting you know I will faithfully report that back.
Thank you. So, Dale, if the decision is to go with all classes, what would be really nice? What would make the gap, um, sorry, with better choice of words, it would make it a lot easier to manage, would be if I could click on the class and it would allow me to change the styles in the class. So if it would like zoom or move right to the class definition and I could get there quickly, or if you could pop it up and say, here's what the settings are on that class, and I could just change it, then all of these issues that I just described would go away because the convenience came back.
Okay. Um, so again, I'll relay that. I My concern about that is that classes, as you know, can be stored in a lot of different places. Um, and so, meaning it can be at the page level, at the site level, they can be added in non-standard ways. And so I'm not sure that
Hmm. Hmm.
we might be opening a can of worms to add a CSS editor into this. But I understand your concern. We're taking away the ability to do the work and to keep it local, and we're making you have to go outside to edit it.
So, what is the plan for where classes and CSS will be stored in a form design?
We have no plans that I'm aware of to change any of that, so we are still at um, there's page CSS that we've if you're using Page Builder, you have the ability to get to the page CSS. I assume it's someplace there's I assume within the DNN UI there's some way to get to page CSS as well. So this is CSS that's just relative to the particular page, and then we have the CSS that's site wide, and we're not making it. Like I say, there are no plans to change that.
Okay, and then we can store CSS in a content block. I'm not sure the right word. It was a static
Yeah,
text
yeah,
box.
there's still um you should be able to absolutely store CSS in a content block. So that would be essentially form level CSS
Which I like quite often because that makes the form mobile. You can recreate it on another page
and a
and
trend.
then tweak it, So if it were over there in the portal CSS, then it makes it harder to tweak when you move it to page.
Yep.
So all those options are good.
Okay. And then so I think the one that we covered is the troublesome one for you, the styles versus classes. But let's take a look at CSS. I'm gonna hopefully that's unique enough. First, I'm going to refresh the page and then inspect here. And um,
Something comes to mind that inline CSS has advantages sometimes, especially some backwards compatibility issues. Like the older PDF creator performs better with inline CSS instead of declared classes at the top or the bottom of a page. Older browsers, heaven forbid you're using something, Internet Explorer or something, inline classes are necessary. Or if you're sending an email, and because HTML is deciphered differently in the receiving at the receiving end. Inline styles is better and more reliable than declared classes.
yeah, so in the case of email, I mean, what the change that proposing here Forms 2.0 doesn't change any of that. It's just specific to rendering forms. The other objections that you had may be true, although um, yeah, I really don't know if there are current browsers that don't accurately handle classes.
Hmm.
Anyway, so I was going to talk about label versus control. And I might be actually better, but let's look for LCSS, the label CSS. Um, so it's here. on the original action form, LCSS is added to the class of the label, right? That was the label CSS class that we asked for. And then see if and then CCSS was added over here on the first name. So we provided a way to style the label versus a way to style the control portion. So that was in action form. We had both, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't follow.
Okay. In action form, we had LCSS. We have one for label and we have one for control. So the label
Hmm.
one is allowing you to influence what the label looks like, and the control one uh, allows you to influence what the control portion looks like. And so that translates to here's the label, and it has LCSS. So now you can style LCSS and make it bigger or smaller, or whatever, and doesn't influence the control. Um,
Okay.
it does that, but um, but it doesn't impact the control. And then by adding a control CSS, which gives us, I mean, it's here. I could have picked better names, but CSS.
Hmm.
This gives us the ability to style the
Control.
control. So that's action form. You got both. In um, in Forms 2.0, we are only styling we only allow one or support one, and it's the in this case it's called, the new thing is called root CSS class, but we see it here. CSS is the way it got migrated, and it's happening. The philosophy of this is that it's happening at the highest level of a control. A control is um, so this particular div has everything related. It has the label. It has the um, um,
Input box.
yeah, the input box, whatever the control is. But
Hmm.
styling it at the highest level, this gives you the ability to style CSS. You can influence any piece of what's below it uh, by correct targeting. So
Hmm.
that's the idea with that one. Um, so rather than splitting them out and putting them in different places, this adds complexity to the way every control gets rendered. This is more reliably, it's just at the top level, so you can style it. Any piece of what's that or what's below. That's the philosophy. And again, I'll make room for any comments you want to have before we wrap.
Well, I see the philosophy and I like it. Okay, I'm good with that. It hasn't changed the thought of it's more work.
Yeah, it's just the same. Thanks.
Hmm.
All right. So with that, even just the two of us have managed to get it
Hmm.
More
Hmm.
than an hour worth of discussion went right by. So I'm going to wrap here and say happy low coding. We'll be back again next week, hopefully with yet even better content, and we will continue the discussion. I'll let you know what I'll try and give a feedback if I get it from the product team on what we just hit. But thanks for spending your hour with me, and we will continue again next week. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe.